There is a lie sitting in your pantry right now. For thousands of years, honey wasn't just a sweetener, it was medicine. Field surgeons used it to dress sword wounds because of its potent antimicrobial properties. Ancient bodies were submerged in it to preserve them for centuries. It was the only concentrated source of sugar that didn't rot your teeth. In fact, medieval skeletal records show peasants had surprisingly robust dental health, despite eating it by the combful. But today, that plastic bear on your shelf often contains a sterile golden syrup that spikes your blood sugar, inflames your liver, and leaves you crashing an hour later. Your grandfather ate honey and felt energized. You eat honey and feel sick. So, what the hell changed? The answer isn't that your body is broken. The answer is that a lot of modern honey isn't honey. It is an industrial chemistry experiment designed for shelf life, not for you. And the medieval peasant you've been taught to pity? He was eating a biological weapon against disease that the modern food industry has spent decades filtering out. Before we go deeper, I want to know, drop a comment below. Does the honey in your cupboard ever crystallize? Does it turn hard and white? Or does it stay liquid forever? Let us know, because that simple fact might tell you if you are eating food or a fraud. To understand why medieval honey was a superfood, you have to look at the chemistry of the bee itself. When a bee gathers nectar, it doesn't just store it. It adds a specific enzyme from a gland in its throat called glucose oxidase. This enzyme is the magic key that industrial processing often destroys. When real, raw honey is diluted, like when it touches a moist wound or your saliva, that enzyme activates. It breaks down the sugars and slowly releases hydrogen peroxide. You heard that right. Real honey is a slow-release antiseptic factory. That is why medieval doctors could use it to treat wounds. It wasn't magic. It was biochemistry. Even today, medical-grade honey is used in hospitals to treat burns and ulcers because it creates an environment where bacteria struggle to survive. But it wasn't just the enzymes. It was the pollen. Medieval honey wasn't spun in a high-speed centrifuge. It was crushed. They took the whole comb, crushed it, and strained it through a coarse cloth. The result was cloudy. It was full of wax bits, propolis, and massive amounts of local pollen. When a peasant ate this, they were consuming a snapshot of their entire local ecosystem. Research suggests this constant, low-level exposure to local allergens may act like a natural immunotherapy. It contained propolis, the bee glue used to seal the hive, which contains pinotsembrin, a compound with anti-inflammatory properties. Medieval honey was a complex biological matrix of sugars, enzymes, proteins, and minerals. It was alive. Fast forward to today. Walk into a supermarket and look at the honey aisle. It's all clear, it's all bright gold, and it's often dead. The change happened when the industry decided that consumers didn't like cloudy food. They introduced ultrafiltration. This isn't just straining out a bee wing. This involves heating the honey to high temperatures to lower its viscosity and forcing it through microscopic filters under massive pressure. They tell you this is to prevent crystallization, so it looks pretty on the shelf. But there is a darker reason. Pollen is the fingerprint of honey. In the world of food science, this is called melissopalinology. Under a microscope, a grain of pollen tells you exactly where that honey came from. If you filter out the pollen, you erase the origin. This allows unscrupulous producers to buy cheap honey from overseas, hide its true source, and sell it to you as something it's not. This has a name. It is called honey laundering. And it is a global crisis. Coordinated testing by the European Union recently found that a massive percentage of imported honey samples were suspected of being adulterated, cut with sugar syrups that are chemically designed to mimic honey. When you buy that cheap plastic bear, you aren't just getting filtered honey. You might be getting corn syrup or rice syrup that has never seen the inside of a hive. And because it is often heated to keep it liquid, that delicate glucose oxidase enzyme reduced, the hydrogen peroxide effect weakened. You are eating flavored sugar. But the fraud goes deeper than just filtration. We have to talk about where the bees are flying. The medieval bee flew through forests, wildflower meadows, and organic crops. They collected nectar from thousands of diverse plant species. The resulting honey was chemically pure. The modern industrial bee. It is often trucked on semi-trailers to massive monocultures. Almond groves in California, soy fields in the Midwest. These fields are often treated with chemical herbicides, specifically glyphosate. Bees bring these chemicals back to the hive. Residue testing in Canada has detected glyphosate in a high percentage of honey samples. While the levels vary, the fact remains: the healthy sweetener you put in your tea might be delivering a microdose of herbicide. Medieval honey was pure because the world was pure. Modern honey can be a carrier for the very agricultural runoff you are trying to avoid. This is why the local label matters so much. Small-scale beekeepers generally keep their hives away from industrial monocultures. Their bees forage in backyards and forests, not chemically treated soy fields. This explains the crash. This explains the inflammation. When you eat real raw honey, you are consuming a whole food. The complex mix of fructose and glucose is buffered by trace minerals, proteins, and enzymes. But when you eat dead or adulterated honey, your body treats it differently. Without the bioactive compounds, it is just a concentrated sugar load. Medieval peasants ate enormous amounts of honey. In some regions, it was the only sweetener available. Yet we don't see the metabolic rot in their skeletons that we see in modern populations. They were active, yes, but they were also eating a whole food. You are often eating an industrial isolate. Furthermore, raw honey acts as a prebiotic. It feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Ultra-processed sugar syrups feed the bad bacteria. The very food that should be supporting your health is now the food that undermines it. A quick but important note: while raw honey is a superfood for adults, never feed it to infants under 12 months due to the risk of botulism spores, which their developing digestive systems cannot handle. This is the one time nature's complexity requires a modern warning label. But the medieval peasant didn't just eat honey raw. He knew how to amplify it. We need to talk about two lost technologies: oxymel and mead. First, oxymel. This is a word you've probably never heard, but in 1400 it was a household staple. Oxymel comes from the Latin for acid and honey. It is a simple mixture of raw honey and vinegar, often infused with herbs like sage, thyme, or rosemary. Why mix honey with vinegar? Because the acid in the vinegar extracts minerals from the herbs that water cannot, and the honey makes the medicine palatable while adding its own antimicrobial kick. It was the medieval cough syrup. It was the medieval immune booster. Today, we buy synthetic syrups dyed red number 40. They made oxymel, and you can make it in your kitchen in 5 minutes. Second, mead. When honey was harvested in the fall, much of it was fermented into mead, honey wine. Fermentation didn't just create alcohol, it created probiotics. It transformed the sugars. Historical mead was often low alcohol and drunk young. It was a living probiotic tonic that preserved the harvest through the winter. Today, we drink pasteurized beer made from monocropped grain. We lost the medicinal aspect of our alcohol. So, you go out and buy a $20 jar of real, raw, local honey. You bring it home. And then you make a classic mistake that destroys everything you just paid for. You dump it into boiling hot tea. Heat is the enemy of enzymes. Glucose oxidase and the other delicate proteins in raw honey begin to denature, fall apart, around 104 to 118 degrees Fahrenheit. Boiling water is 212 degrees. When you stir raw honey into boiling water, you are instantly pasteurizing it. You are killing the enzymes yourself. You are turning that expensive superfood into expensive sugar syrup. The medieval peasant knew this intuitively. Honey was often added after cooling, or eaten on cold bread, or taken by the spoon. If you want the medicine, you have to have patience. Make your tea, let it sit. Wait until it is cool enough to sip comfortably. Then add your honey. If you can put your finger in the water without burning it, the enzymes will survive. So, how do you know if you've been scammed? There are myths online about burning honey or thumb tests, but the truth is, sophisticated adulteration is hard to spot without a lab. However, there are rough indicators that can give you a clue. Indicator 1. The water test. Fill a glass with water, drop a spoonful of honey into it. Cheap, syrup-heavy honey often dissolves immediately as it falls, clouding the water before it hits the bottom. Real, raw honey is dense. It tends to fall straight to the bottom as a solid lump and sit there. You have to actively stir it to make it dissolve. Indicator 2. Crystallization. This is your best visual cue. If you have a jar that has been sitting in your pantry for 6 months and it is still perfectly clear and liquid, be suspicious. Real honey wants to crystallize. It turns solid, white, and gritty. The industry tries to tell you this is spoilage. It is actually a sign of life. It means the pollen is there to act as a seed for the crystals. But the only definite test? Know your beekeeper. If you can shake the hand of the person who harvested it, you aren't getting rice syrup from a factory. If you want the superfood your ancestors ate, you have to break the modern rules of shopping. Rule 1. Ignore the bear. If it comes in a plastic bear and stays liquid in the dead of winter, be skeptical. If the label doesn't explicitly say raw and unfiltered, assume it has been processed. Rule 2. Go local. Local isn't a buzzword. It's your defense against global supply chain fraud. Find a beekeeper in your county. Buy a jar that looks cloudy. A jar that has impurities in it. Those impurities, the wax, the propolis, the pollen, are the medicine. That is the fingerprint that proves it hasn't been cut with syrup in a factory 5,000 miles away. The medieval peasant didn't know what an enzyme was. He didn't know the molecular weight of pinosembrin, but he knew that the cloudy jar from the village hive kept his family strong through the winter. He knew that nature offered a complete package, and that messing with it came at a cost. We traded that wisdom for a clear, shelf-stable syrup. We traded medicine for convenience, and we are paying the price in our health. The secret wasn't lost, it was filtered out. Every time you buy real, raw, ugly honey, you are reclaiming a piece of that ancient technology. You are voting against the fraud. Can you taste the difference between raw and supermarket honey? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if you want to keep digging up what the industry tried to bury.